Welcome to week 2 of Intro to Journalism. I hope everything went well with your first week. Everything's been graded. If I missed anybody, please let me know. We can get that taken care of. If you have any questions as you go through material, please be sure to email me. I'm on my email almost all the time, and that's the best way to get a hold of me. This week, we talk about how newsrooms work, and even the textbook is lagging a little bit in how digital has played a part in newsrooms now, and there is actually areas in the newsroom devoted to digital, um, and how much that plays in that role of getting the news to readers and to viewers and to subscribers on social media. One of the slides that you'll look at in the PowerPoint that goes with the chapter will talk about what makes a story interesting, and there I think it's 7 factors there that need to be considered. The story doesn't have to meet all of those factors, but 1 or 2 of them will be of interest to making sure it's a story that we want to pursue or not. Impact. The larger number of people are impacted by the news, by the story, the better. So if a whole town is affected by flooding, that would probably be a bigger story than just one person's basement flooding. So we have to take that into consideration. Immediacy. We want to make sure that we report the news as it happens as quickly as we can. That's why social media and websites are used so much more now and depended on by newspapers rather than print. Because in print, there can be a 6 to 8 to 10 hour delay in the time between the newspaper is printed and it's delivered. And a lot of things can happen in between it. That's why more newspapers depend on their websites. Proximity. The closer the news happens to where your readers are, the more important it will be, the more interesting it will be. There are plenty of ways to find news that's happening around the world, but that hyper-local news is just not possible to get in some sources. CNN does not carry a lot of news about Springfield. So if you can keep it more local, that will make the story more interesting to more people. Prominence. If the mayor is busted for dealing drugs, that's a bigger story than the guy down the street busted for dealing drugs. Novelty. The more unusual the story may be, the better. It's the old man bites dog kind of theory. If a man bites a dog, that's a pretty novel story, rather than dog bites man. Conflict. There's always that David and Goliath theme that works well. Somebody fighting City Hall, somebody fighting for their child's rights at a school board meeting. Those kinds of things, they make for good stories. And then finally, emotions. Stories that have a lot of emotion. Soldiers coming home from war and surprising their loved ones. Those kinds of things where you can stir up some emotion. People who overcome different physical handicaps and things like that to be a success. You see that a lot of times in the Olympic coverage that we've just recently had. So those are the factors that you think about when you're considering whether or not you want to do a story. The other PowerPoint there is what makes a good story, and those are just some pieces of advice that you can have for when you try and find out what's going on. What is a good story? What might make a good story? You need to really listen and talk to neighbors and friends and find out what they're interested in, and usually that makes for a pretty good story. There's a couple of little assignments there at the end. There's not a whole lot involved this week. I just want to kind of get through the early material as quickly as we can to get to the meat of things. So take your time, go through it, enjoy it, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, of course, just email me, and I'll be waiting for your emails. If not, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.